When we talk about the British Empire, we often hear stories of power, exploration, and industrial might. But there's a darker chapter, one that shaped nations, devastated lives, and built unimaginable wealth. This is the story of Britain and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. And here's what you need to know. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that is crucial to understanding British history, and global history too. Britain's role in the transatlantic slave trade. This isn't just about the past, it's about legacies we still live with today. The transatlantic slave trade, sometimes called the triangular trade, was a system where millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homelands and transported across the Atlantic to the Americas. It formed a triangle. Ships left Europe, often from ports like Liverpool, Bristol and London, carrying manufactured goods. These were traded in West Africa for enslaved people. Those people were then transported in brutal conditions to the Caribbean and the Americas, the infamous Middle Passage. From there, goods like sugar, tobacco and cotton were brought back to Britain. This system operated from the late 16th century to the early 19th century, and Britain became one of the most dominant players. So, just how deep was Britain's involvement? Very deep. By the 18th century, Britain had become the largest trafficker of enslaved Africans in the world. British ships transported an estimated 3.1 million Africans, about 2.7 million of whom survived the Middle Passage. Cities like Liverpool grew wealthy from the trade. In fact, up to 80% of Britain's foreign income in the 18th century came from slave-based industries. British banks, insurance companies, and even universities were built on profits from slavery. This wasn't just a few rogue traders, it was an industry woven into the economy and backed by the crown. The conditions enslaved people faced were horrifying. On slave ships, people were packed tightly, often shackled with little room to move. Disease and death were rampant. Once in the Caribbean or the Americas, they were sold into a life of forced labor, most commonly on sugar plantations. There was no freedom, no pay, no rights. Families were separated. Resistance was met with brutal punishment. Britain's economy thrived, but at a devastating human cost. But there was resistance, both from within and outside Britain. Enslaved people resisted in every way they could, escaping, revolting, preserving culture, and fighting back. In Britain, the abolitionist movement grew strong in the late 18th century, led by figures like Olaudah Equiano, a formerly enslaved African who wrote a powerful autobiography, William Wilberforce, a member of Parliament who campaigned against slavery, and countless unnamed activists, black and white, who protested, petitioned and fought for change. In 1807, Britain passed the Abolition of the Slave Trade Act, making it illegal to participate in the trade. But slavery itself remained legal in British colonies until 1833, when the Slavery Abolition Act was passed. The story doesn't end there. After abolition, the British government compensated slave owners, not the enslaved, for their loss of property. That compensation cost the government so much that British taxpayers were still paying off the debt until 2015. Meanwhile, formerly enslaved people received nothing. The effects of slavery still shape modern Britain: racial inequalities, wealth gaps, and ongoing calls for reparations and justice. Some institutions have begun acknowledging their ties to slavery, but for many that's just the beginning. Understanding Britain's role in the transatlantic slave trade isn't about guilt, it's about truth. It's about honoring the lives of millions who were stolen and understanding how the past informs the present. If you learned something today, hit like, subscribe and share this video. Let's keep these conversations going. Drop a comment below. What part of this history do you think deserves more attention? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.